Hey guys, it's Pink Octo. I wanted to do another recap since there is lots of people who have subscribed to the channel, and I wanted to re-explain what happened and to do with the whole accident that I had back in 2023 in May. So I've explained this I explained this a little while ago, but for the new people who are subscribed, I wanted to make a video to retell what happened and how it all comes together with my life now. So it was I think it was a Tuesday. It was 16th of May, and myself, Brady, and another person we were all let out because we were at TAFE, and we were let out at 10 minutes earlier because, the teacher that we had said that we could have 10 minutes of leaving, we could leave 10 minutes earlier. And I got everything. I was in a very good mood. At the time, me and Brady weren't a couple. We were just best friends. I was with one of his friends, and he was with one of his friends as well. So we kind of we were all together, except the person that Brady was with, she had to go up further ahead because of her having to catch the bus. So she was up further ahead, so it was just me, Brady, and Tyson, who was the other person. And so we basically were walking, everything was fine. I had one headphone on and then one headphone off, so I was paying attention. When we got down to the lights, most of yous aren't really aware of, if you've been to Hobart, good, but if you haven't, I will try my hardest to explain. So we got to the walkway and we were waiting. I was happy, I was dancing. I literally remember just dancing to the music, and it was waiting, and this is where things get blurry, and people always tell me that it was green. It's still blurry on my mind. That's the only thing that I wish, if a part of my brain wishes it could believe that it was green and all that stuff, but it's still blurry in my mind. So but anyways, even though people said that it was green, I was the first one to take. I took three big steps forward in front of Brady and Tyson, and I, out of nowhere, sorry, my eyes itching. Out of nowhere, this car got there and hit me. It hit me on my left side, so basically the way that I basically am, this might look, so this side here is my left side and this is my right side. Well, it was the left side that I got hit at, And I had got there, and as I said, I took 3 big steps forward in front of Brady and Tyson, and I ended up getting hit. This car got there and basically ran through a red light thinking they would make it through, and they ended up hitting me, which the police and the ambulance believed that, well, mostly the police said that that I basically, when I got hit, I bounced onto the bonnet of the front of the car, cracked the windscreen, bounced off the bonnet, flew about 5 or 10 meters up in the air, and then landed on the other side of the road. So I obviously, as soon as the car hit me, I blacked out, and I didn't wake up until I was basically being put on the stretcher into the ambulance van. Well, the first thing that when I woke up and I was being put in the van was, and I said, because where you have one ambulance that obviously isn't like drives and the other one is with the patient. Well, I got there and I didn't know if I was alive or not, so I got there and the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Am I alive?" And I was so relieved to hear the paramedic / ambulance person, whatever you want to call. I was so relieved when I heard that they said yes. And so basically drove, because it's silly, because even though I was right near the hospital, you weren't allowed to just back up. You had to like go fully around like a block just so the ambulance could go into the emergency area and rush to the emergency area. They got me out of the van. I was on the stretcher. I remember going through the emergency doors. I remember just getting there and just being wheeled on the stretcher to a certain point. Then at the time there was only 3 people that I wished that I could see, and that was my mum and dad and my best friend. Well, got there and ended up being, I remember hearing 2 voices, and they were the voices that I wanted to hear, that I was so wanting, that I knew that I wanted to hear, and that was my mum and dad. I saw them and I fully cried. My mum was crying. I would barely see my dad cry, but he cried. I just wanted, that was at that moment that I just wanted them to hold me, but because, I was on the stretcher and there was nothing that they could do, I had to go get more tests done. So I needed to make sure that, they needed to make sure that there was nothing wrong to do with my neck or my back or any sort of damage in that way. Luckily, nothing like that was wrong. remember just thinking to myself, how could this happen? And like, it didn't really hit me until later on the night. So basically I got hit by the car at 3:10 p.m. and then it really struck me in the mind later that night, which was probably around almost 7:30. So that was when all of like what happened like went like just struck through in my head. After getting all tests and that done, unfortunately the jacket that I had and the overalls that I had bought the day before unfortunately they had to be cut because when they were trying to get tests like done for my neck and for my whole body, they couldn't get it done because I had this puffer jacket on and I had my overalls on, and I was just so upset. And that morning that the accident happened, me and my mum had an argument, and like when everything was, when everything was okay and, there was no issues, they were still running tests and all that, but I was waiting for a room, and basically I was just where there was a whole bunch of doctors and nurses. I basically was just in this little area. My mum and dad finally got there and saw me just for a little bit. Then my mum had to go to work, unfortunately, and my dad had to go with her because he's the only one who drives. And so that basically they were gone for a little bit, and then my pop was the one who sat next to me while my mum and dad were gone. Then when my mum and dad came back, my best friend came and visited me, and that's when I knew that it was all gonna be okay, because I had my mum and dad and I had my best friend by my side. They ended up finding me a room. I was in there for almost for a whole night and a half, and luckily, unfortunately, there was something wrong with this finger. I knew there was something wrong. I couldn't move it at all. So that afternoon, so the morning when it happened, I told my mum, something doesn't feel right with my finger. I really can't move it. So when the nurse came back, I told them, look, I can't move my finger. It hurts when I try to move it. Is there a possibility if I could try and get an x-ray to see what happened? And when the x-ray came back, turns out it was broken. But the next week after I went to go get like this thing done, they told me it was just a torn ligament, and I got there and I was like, well, they're wrong, because I saw their x-ray and there was like the smallest little fracture there, and it doesn't just heal within a week. Like, I will always believe that my finger was broken and it just needed that 4 to 6 weeks to heal. But even though they told me it was a torn ligament, I've always believed, and still will believe to this day, obviously, that my finger was broken. After my hand was so from my wrist here all the way, covering my fingers up until my fingertips. I had like a cast in my hand for a whole week before I had it taken off. I went home, before I went home that afternoon, when everything was okay, my best friend was with me. She made sure that she was there. My other best friend, unfortunately, she was in college, so she couldn't do much. But the best friend that was with me, she stayed by my side, and I'm so thankful for her, and I know that she knows that, and I will forever get there and be thankful for that. Brady, Tyson, Amber, which is the person that, and then another person, Brendan, everyone in TAFE from both classes made this box, and it had a whole bunch of things, like a whole bunch of cards saying get well soon and all that. So I still have the box to this day. I was able to go home the night after my whole cast was on. I was able to go home. Luckily, I didn't need to pay for the hospital bills, which was almost $4,500, and that was just for one night at being in the hospital, and like getting my neck, getting my back, and all the tests and stuff, and the x-ray, and hospital bills are just crazy for now. Sorry. Recovery was hard. I wasn't able to write properly because I depend on my whole right hand to write, especially these two, and then these two are usually the ones that when I hold a pencil, they usually rest against the pencil. So I was not able to do that. I went back to TAFE. A week later, I was doing half days because I knew that I couldn't take on full days just yet, so just for a little while I was doing only half days, which the teachers understood. As I said, recovery was really hard, especially mentally, because I had everything sorted, like I had everything stable. Before the accident happened, my depression had been, I was going out more, my depression wasn't really bothering me, my anxiety was at a stable point, like just everything went downhill after the accident happened. So I'm getting better now, but it's going to take me a while because this is the most traumatic thing that I have gone through. Losing my best friend when I was in high school, that is the most second traumatic thing, but my car accident will always be the most traumatic thing to ever happen. I'm super lucky that I'm alive. I'm thankful every single day. When I wake up, I get there and, I say to myself that I'm thankful that I'm alive. And I always believe that that God gave me a second chance in being able to live. That's how I see it now. But I'm slowly getting better. Still sort of gone through a lot. But unfortunately, I lost a lot of strength in both my hands, unfortunately. So, I've tried to build the strength back up, and so. But anyways, I thought I would retell the story. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and before I end this video, I'm going to show proof that it really happened, because people, when I've been live with Brady, people have not believed that the accident happened. So here's when I got there, and just after I ended up arriving in the hospital, then that was a couple of hours after, and it was crazy. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. As I said, I'm very thankful to be alive. I have great parents. I have the time that Brady and I went together, but now almost 2.5 years, will be 2.5 years in April that me and him have been together. I'm thankful to have him. I'm thankful to have my best friends. Just in general, I'm really thankful. So I never take things for granted anymore, because you never know what is going to happen. Your life, you could be alive, and then all for you could know, you could wake up and get there and go, like that and you could be gone. You could be up and unfortunately, yeah, you guys know what I mean. So, but I'm going to get off and I will hopefully eventually see you in another video. Bye guys.